Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide. Welcome to part 1 of the multi-part in-depth review video of the Boox Max Lumi, the 13.3-inch front-lit device powered by an Android 10 e-ink Mobius flexible screen, pretty much the most powerful 13.3-inch e-ink device on the market today. So let's begin. And here it is, the Max Lumi. Max Lumi is a 13.3-inch e-ink powered tablet that is running on Android 10 and the latest version of the Onyx Boox's firmware OS system thingy, which is now at version 3. As I've described in the unboxing, it's a really nice design, really well built, nothing spectacular, nothing flashy, nothing in your face, but everything is done and basically balanced so that this immediately tells you, hello, I'm a tool, use me. As far as the configuration goes, we just have the power button on the top, we have the back button that can be configured as a home button and it doubles as a fingerprint reader. We have also the USB-C on the bottom for data communication and the micro HDMI in, and nothing on either of the sides. The back is made out of a magnesium alloy, not plastic as I initially thought, and it also has stereo speakers on the bottom of the back panel. The front is totally flush, so there's just a big flat surface on front, no bezels and nothing like that, and let's dispel the notions. No, it is not glass, this is PMMA, which is plastic. So this is a plastic top which has structure to it. It's not perfectly smooth, which is a good thing because, as you'll see when we talk about the note-taking experience and writing experience, it helps quite a bit. The bezel around here is black. The bottom we have a slightly kind of grayish, greenish, lovely dark color like Poke 2 device had. So this one has it as well, though it's a little bit darker and it's very pretty. Overall, I think that the design is excellent. It's very fitting to the type of device this is. The only negative that I do have is that there isn't a white option. I simply prefer the white outline so that it doesn't actually fight with the device. Actually not white, but if it would have been completely the same color as the white of the screen is, that would be ideal. The build quality is very good and very sturdy. The device feels strong. It doesn't flex, it doesn't torque, it doesn't do any of those things. It's perfectly straight, there are no bends whatsoever, and every fit and nook and cranny is nicely and precisely milled and fitted together. So the overall impression is like Max 3 and pretty much like all of the Onyx Boox devices, the build quality is very good. Now, as far as the specifications go, Max Lumi is powered by an 8-core CPU, and that runs 4 cores run at 1.8 GHz and 4 cores run at 1.6 GHz. It's also powered by 4 GB of LPDDR4 RAM running Android 10. Storage is fixed at 64 GB. Usable space is less, we will address that. The main driver is, of course, this giant screen, which is a 13.3-inch Mobius flexible screen with a flat cover lens, which is made out of PMMA, as I mentioned, so plastic, running at 2200 by 1650 resolution, which of course amounts to 207 pixels per inch or dots per inch. It has both capacitive and stylus capability, and, which is the first, it has a front light, which is the big deal with Max Lumi, hence the name. It also supports both 2.4 and 5 GHz Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5.0. The battery that's powering all of this is 4300 mAh. It also has microphones, as I mentioned, dual speakers, micro HDMI, and all of these kinds of things. Like all Onyx Boox devices, it supports a vast array of book formats, image formats, audio formats, and of course third-party app installation is supported, though compatibility and full functionality is down to the app developer. However, that's also going to be a separate video when we talk about that and explain a little bit. So all in all, this is pretty much the most beefed up, feature-rich e-ink tablet currently on the market. And as such, it also sports the most beefiest price tag as well. So at $880, that's quite a lot. So it is an investment, but you do get quite a lot. All right, so let's talk about the Frontlight and the screen itself, because obviously that's one of the things that people are very, very interested in. So I've tried to calibrate the camera to kind of resemble more or less how I see, hear things. But of course, that's going to be very difficult to interpret. But this is now the Frontlight at 50% both front lights. So if I go all the way to the maximum, it becomes very, very illuminated, but not too glowy. As you can see, my hands, even if I reach them just above here where the camera is, they are no longer that, my palms are no longer horribly illuminated, which means that it's not really reflecting so much of that light into your eyes. That being said, I hope that it does show here. The front light is good, very, very good, but it is not 100% uniform. What I hope that you can see is that we have this kind of pretty good uniformity all the way down to here, and right around below the half, or let's say at the bottom third, we start to have this kind of light bleed on the sides and on the bottom as well. And this is kind of consistent with both of the lights. And this is not something that actually bothers me at all, because most of the time I use it at somewhere around here. And at that kind of range and with normal lighting in the room itself, this really doesn't shine through, pardon the pun. But yeah, basically it is there. So if you are looking for perfection and 100% uniformity of the light, and if you're super hypersensitive about that kind of thing, then this is something that you need to be aware of. The front light, now why is this not responsive? Because my fingers are very dry. I just use the hand sanitizer thingy, so now my skin is super dry, but as my oils build up, you see that it's starting to get more responsive. So if I rub my fingers, now it's going to be very responsive. You can sync the lights with this link icon here, or you can unsync it, and then you can independently control the daytime. So this is the orange light, which does not have that much bleed, and we have the blue light, which does have some bleed on the sides. So I'm inclined to believe that the blue light is the one that is much more noticeably having this light bleed at the bottom. However, if you start balancing them out to something that makes a little bit more sense, that it's not glowing at the absolute maximum, I don't think it's a big deal. Can you turn off the front light? Yes, of course. You can either switch it off by using the switch, or you can lower it all the way down via the intensity light. While we're at the screen, there's one more thing that I would like to mention, and that is, let's add a notepad here, and I'm going to add a layer from the cloud, which is the black one. And now let's clear this whole thing up. So we're in normal mode, and let's just refresh. So if we have a fresh one. And one of the things that people asked about was the graininess. So the graininess is there only, and I can notice it only if I am using a pure black background and I really, really pay attention to it. There's no way for the camera to be able to actually capture this graininess because it's far too subtle, but I'm going to try and take images and show them here so that you can see what I mean. And it's going to be an example of the black, how it's displayed on the screen with the full front light and with the front light off, so that you can compare and see what you want. Unless you're dealing with predominantly completely black canvas type of content, I think that you're going to be very hard pressed to find it and to be annoyed by this. The screen is very crisp, even though it is at 207 dpi. It doesn't actually matter because you can fit so much on the screen. I've never actually noticed it being grainy or anything like that. So here I have a full page of text of very dense format, so that you can see that the letters are very, very small. And here I have zoomed in all the way to the maximum. Here's the size of my finger in relative to the size of the text here, and you can see that for my taste it's very, very sharp and it works really, really nicely. This is with the Frontlight at 50%, and somebody asked, can I show without the Frontlight? This is now with Frontlight off. So you would be very, very hard pressed to find and look at the difference in normally lit conditions. So yeah, and just for completeness sake, let's turn on this, and this is the Frontlight at maximum, so that you can see how that looks like. I think that the screen is excellent. It handles different types of contents very nicely. If you, let's just find, I don't know, something that has some images. So yeah, a combination of text and images and different resolution types of images. Then you also can display formulas normally. Maybe this document has, nope, this one doesn't, but the one here about the tardigrade tolerance, this one I think has smaller type of format, but also extremely readable and very, very nicely visible. So for different types of use case scenarios, I find that the screen was really, really good for anything that I threw at it, be it images, presentations, technical documents, user manuals, books. I've never had anything other than, hey, this works great. The screen surface is not that reflective, and I think that's really good, and you can see it here. So this is a super, super strong light pointed directly top down at it. But as soon as I move it to a slightly more normal type of angle, I think it works good. That being said, there are situations where you might see a little bit of glare, but it's diffused nicely, so it never actually overcomes the content here. And that's one of the advantages, that it's not glass. It's able to actually make a very nice and diffuse and soft reflection. So yeah, that I think works. Now, I haven't had any sunny days during this time. It's just rain and wind and storms for weeks now. So yeah, I tested it out in gloomy conditions and I didn't have sun glare problems at all. Maybe because I had an overcast of clouds on top. And also I wasn't able to test out, does it have the sun spotting issue? Again, I don't have any sunshine. When the sun comes out, I might want to try and do that, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just try to enjoy a little bit of sunshine myself for the last time before the winter comes. I was very much looking forward to doing the Desta test on Max Lumi and verifying what my subjective feel was. Was it just a feeling or was there an objectivity behind it? And now I can tell you my subjective feel. The writing feels really, really good. But more importantly, the latency, for me, it felt on par with Remarkable 1 and a little bit more snappier. Desta test actually confirmed my subjective feeling, which is that the writing latency on Max Lumi is not only faster than Max 3, but it's also faster than Remarkable 1. It's not as fast as Remarkable 2, even with the revised 27 milliseconds, but at 46 milliseconds of first contact and 83 of the full line, basically averaging out at 64 milliseconds, that's definitely faster than Remarkable 1. No matter how much I repeat the test, I get the same results for Remarkable 1, which is 54 or 54.2 milliseconds, and Max Lumi is always around 46 or very high 45.8, 40.9 milliseconds with the first touch. So not only does it feel good when you're writing, it's also really snappy, and because there is no glass top, the contact surface is very thin and it feels that you're writing on the screen. As far as the screen-related writing experience stuff goes, it's extremely good. Better than Max 3 and for me personally on par with Remarkable 1. Remarkable 2 is still faster, but I don't know if that speed is enough to justify the lack of functionalities that Max Lumi brings to the table, which is simply outstanding. When it comes to the battery, Max Lumi is equipped with a 4300 mAh battery, which is supposed to last for a long time, and the results are pretty good. Test 1 consists out of me writing continuously for 1 hour on the device itself. The conditions are Wi-Fi is turned on and the Frontlight was at a quarter strength, something that I've noticed that I'm using normally. Battery charge when I started was 99%, and after a full hour of writing it dropped down to 94%, so roughly around 5% per hour of writing continuously with Wi-Fi and quarter of Frontlight intensity turned on. So that amounts to approximately 20 hours of continuous writing under these conditions. I think that's a really good number and an adequate one. Battery life test 2 is a multi-part test, and this is where I make use of the slideshow functionality in NeoReader, where I basically set up a document and let it auto flip pages every 20 seconds. The first test conditions were Wi-Fi was turned on, Bluetooth was turned off, and the Frontlight was set at 50% exactly. And in those conditions, after 12 hours of flipping pages, the device spent approximately 21% of the battery, which extrapolates to a possible total of 57 hours with Wi-Fi on, Bluetooth off, and Frontlight at half. So the first part is the normal type of use scenario, basically like medium consumption. Now the second part is low consumption, so super conservative, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and the Frontlight all off, as efficient as I can get it to be. And in those conditions, in 12 hours of flipping pages continuously, the device spent 11% of the battery, which basically amounts to a theoretical total of 109 hours of working without the Frontlight, without the Wi-Fi, and without Bluetooth. That's a lot. And then finally it's the all-out bonanza test where Wi-Fi is on, Bluetooth is on, and the Frontlight is all the way to the maximum. Under those conditions, in 11 hours the device spent 48%, which basically extrapolates to around 22 hours of battery life that you will get under those conditions. Now you may wonder about the 12-hour and 11-hour durations of the test. Well, it's simply because if I was to let it go for 60 hours for this one, 110 hours for that one, and another 20 hours for the other one, it would take basically a week or more to just do the battery tests. And I was thinking that I can extrapolate values that are giving us roughly good idea of what to expect from the battery life and give you the reviews now rather than make you wait another week. So overall, the battery life on Max Lumi meets my expectations and surpasses them quite a bit, especially when the Frontlight is turned off, and that is actually my preference. I use most of the devices without the Frontlight turned on, and I turn it on bare minimum just when I absolutely need it. And in such case scenario, it's super efficient. Now the pen. So this is the pen that comes with Max Lumi, and you will recognize it that it's the most basic Onyx Boox pen that they have, and they have been issuing with all of their models. And yeah, it has a button which is for an eraser. It has an eraser on the back as well. It works. And on the front you'll see that this guy doesn't have a nib. That's because I took that nib out because I really don't want to use this one, and I put the said nib into the Lumi pen so that I can have something that's far more comfortable. It has same functionality. I have the button here, but I'm using the exact same nib that the device has been basically designed to work with. The only difference is that vehicle that's using this nib is far more comfortable. So yeah, that definitely works, and that's something that I'm going to be using throughout the review, just so that you know. So the obvious negative point is I truly don't understand why the pen is like this. I mean, it has absolutely no connection to the device that it comes with, nor to the price tag itself. So that's a very, very puzzling decision. Also, there is no place where to mount the pen or kind of snap it on, and this is a device that you really want to have your pen around with. So I think that is definitely an oversight. Note Air is obviously bringing that change with magnetic kind of capabilities with the pen. I think it's a shame that Max Lumi doesn't have it, but if you have a flip book, then the pen can actually fit in there. But then again, you probably want to account an extra cost for the cover and also for a better pen, because this one's really bad. Alright, so that's pretty much about the device and what you get with it. Now let's investigate a little bit about the general user interface and how it works. So we're sporting version 3.0, and it's at a glance it's pretty much the same as before. So you have your library, store, notes, storage, apps and settings on the sides. Then you have your content area, and you have your notifications area, or the taskbar if you will, which if you tap or slide down you will have your back button, home button, multitask button, refresh, which is new from 2.3, and you have your functionality icons here, which are editable. So you can add, remove, rearrange, and basically put them however you want to put them in. I have rearranged these things and I've customized a little bit, mainly because I wanted a navigation ball control here. And there's a couple of new things in version 3. The most obvious one is the screencast. Because it's Android 10, now we can do screencast, and that's going to be shown in a different part of the review. Then we have system-wide split screen, and one thing that I really love is the ability to turn on and off the navigation ball itself. Even though it is dockable, you can still dock it to the side, which is fantastic, but I also like the ability that you can turn it off completely should you choose to do so, and it's much easier this way when you have a shortcut right here. So I like that quite a bit. Now a little bit of a tip here. People also say like, oh, I would like Remarkable because of the distraction-free environment, if blah 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 blah. Well, yes, I totally get it. You have the notifications, and by default this tablet will go plingy plongy and do all sorts of things like typical Android. It's like, look at me. But one of the things that I immediately do on any of the Android tablets, or let's say Onyx Boox tablets, is I go down here, and in the notifications, of course, you can adjust your volumes because it has speakers, but you have this one, do not disturb. So I turn do not disturb on, and it blocks everything, and you can see it as this little icon over here, and it blocks any of the distractions. No notifications, no nothing. That's my default. The first thing I do is go to sound settings and turn the do not disturb mode on, and it stays on for my devices, at least for the e-ink devices, all the time. And then you have distractions. Done. Now this little guy here is called the navigation ball, and it's a lovely shortcut thingy. Basically what it does, you can reposition it where you want, you can drag it however you want. When you tap it, it will open up, and it can open up in a fan type of configuration. You can make it vertical, horizontal, and you can customize up to 9 buttons. One of the additional functionalities that it has is that it can dock to the side, and as I've shown in the notifications, if you put a shortcut here, you can quickly enable it and disable it. Navigation Ball is an app, and as such it's found in the app or the apps category here. So once I go there, I can find Navigation Ball, and this is where you actually do all of the configurations for the Navigation Ball itself. So as I said, you can have display style can be fan-shaped, horizontal or vertical. You can set the transparency if you want, you can set the size, and etc, etc. More importantly, you have these 9 buttons that are all configurable, and you can choose whatever you want for either of the buttons to do. So it's really possible to configure this in a way that you want. And one of the new things that's been added as well is this little button here, which is a shortcut to the Navigation Ball settings. So basically now I no longer have to go to apps, Navigation Ball and everything. You can just go here, and this little guy where you have the Navigation Ball icon with the little gear on top, that's Navigation Ball settings, and it's a shortcut that just gets you right there where you want. I think it's a tremendously helpful little tool, especially when you customize it to your needs. It's super awesome. General options that you have on the side is basically your document management systems and some apps. So we have library, which is where your documents, books and presentations will be, and you're able to, by default it's not going to be arranged nicely like this, it's going to be just documents all over the place, but you have this little button here which is basically adding a new bookshelf or a folder. The important thing to know is that you're free to rearrange your documents within the library in the sub bookshelves and bookshelves, but that will not rearrange the physical position or the location of the documents on the storage of the device itself. So this is simply a library user interface. You don't have to, no documents change their place. So you can put all the documents in one place if you want, in one folder, and they'll physically remain there, but you can rearrange them into different bookshelves so that you have a nicely organized library, which is something that I love. And of course, you're able to have sub folders or bookshelves within bookshelves, etc, etc. As you would normally expect. The operations are quite simple. So search, you can search for a document, and then you can arrange the documents or folders by time or as a bookshelf. Then you can also have the multi-select mode. Once you enter the multi-select mode, you can select all or tap on any single document. You cannot select the bookshelves themselves, but you can only select the documents themselves. So I can select the documents and then perform the operations here, which are move, delete, lock. Yes, you can lock the documents, or of course cancel. Once a document is locked, so for example, I can just now lock it, and I can just use a numeric password or a fingerprint password. So let's just tap here something stupid like 1111, right? And I'm just gonna go, the passwords don't matter. Oh yeah, of course. Confirm the super secure password, 11. The cool thing is that it blocks the cover of the document itself. So then you no longer see what the document is, you just read the name of the document. And to unlock it, you just have to enter the password that you have. There was a question about whether there's encryption here. Nope, we do not have encryption. The only encryption that they call in the user manual is this, setting a password on the document, but that's not an encrypting password. This is a local kind of thing. So if you lock the file here on Onyx Boox and then you move the file somewhere else, it's not encrypted. It's not gonna be password protected. So this is simply a local functionality. Then you also have reading statistics and some more options where you can filter and sort, and you can filter and sort quite nicely. So by books, by purchased books, finished books, unreads, authors, size, added time, reading time, ascending, descending, etc, etc. So anything that you can probably think of is there, and you can organize it the way you want. Switch, of course, between the list mode and the cover mode, and of course in the library settings you can adjust which folders is the device going gonna be looking for and scanning for changes so that it can automatically add newly added documents into your library. Then we also have the store, which contains a lot of old books which are copyright free at this time, but really nothing that amazing. And you can see that this one is now all on Chinese. But if I go into settings and I go into more settings, I have an option which is called server selection, and I can choose between US and Asia. And if I choose to switch to the US server and then I go back to the store, it's now going to reload and now it's going to display the US store. So just in case that maybe you actually see the Chinese content, check out the server in the settings. So you could just go to settings and more settings, and then you have the server selection over there. So the store is there and it's okay, but I never use it. Realistically, I really don't use it. So what I tend to do is I go to settings, applications, and I basically disable the bookstore completely because I don't want it to do anything in the background. I simply don't want it active. And once it's disabled, you'll see that it's closed. So the shop is closed. Cool. I don't use it. I don't want it. Then you have the notes and notebooks. This is where you do all of your writing. Then we have storage, and the storage capacity is 47, 48 gigabytes. I've used a little bit of room, so but you get around 48 or 9 gigabytes of free space out of total 64. So around 15, 16 gigabytes goes for the system related stuff. Still plenty of room, and also it is expandable on the bottom, so you can always add a bit of a extra SD card if you want to via the little thingy that they supplied, which I'm gonna get to in a moment. Then you have the apps section where you have all of your apps, and more importantly, this is where you will be doing the Google Play Store settings. If you want to know how to get the Google Play Store to work, go to my unboxing video of Max Lumi, and there's a chapter in the description of the video. You'll have the timestamp for how to enable Google Play Store. Just follow that along and you'll have it. And also be patient, because it does require sometimes 1 minute, sometimes 20 minutes for the registration to go through. So just don't panic and do things one thing at a time. Take your time and it'll be fine. Once it's enabled, it works like any other Google Play Store on any other Android device. Another thing that I forgot to mention, simply because by now I thought that everybody knows this, but I know that there's always new people coming to the Onyx Boox environment, and that's the unlike other devices, Onyx Boox devices have 4 refresh speed modes. So you can choose between normal mode, speed mode, which is great for reading because it's much faster and very little ghosting. Then you have the A2 mode, which has ghosting but is good for scrolling content. And then you have the X mode, which I really don't see how it's usable, but it's a nice little thing, I guess, if you want to see what's possible. However, that degrades quality quite a bit, but it makes it possible to show content like videos at maybe 10 frames a second if I'm generous, but it's really hardly usable. So basically for me, it's always these 3 modes. It would be the normal mode for drawing, speed mode for reading, A2 mode for browsing and Google Play Store activities. And if you're wondering what that looks like, let's just go now to A2 mode, and I go to the apps. And you can see that we're having a little bit of ghosting. That's what A2 mode does, but at the expense of speed, because right now then I can just scroll if I wanted to, and I can scroll quite comfortably, but it does degrade quality a bit, and you do have this type of ghosting. However, if I switch to, let's say, speed mode, you will see that it's much sharper, and you can still scroll, but it's noticeably slower. Way slower. So let's go maybe here so you can see how that works. And if you go to normal mode is not meant to be scrolling, so you will get really weird type of behavior, and that's not something that it should be used with. Technically you can do it, but there's no need to do it. Yes, the picture quality is the best, but basically for scrolling content I normally use A2 mode. So then it works great. And finally, in the settings themselves, you will find the user manual, languages. This is where you add your languages, keyboards, and all that kind of stuff. Date and time settings, power settings so that you can have auto power off, power on, and a lot more options as well. Very, very nice to actually, so how to set up. Does it go online automatically or not? When does the Wi-Fi time out, etc., etc. So very, very nice and sophisticated level of control overall. Network settings, which is where you get your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and VPN. Applications themselves, a lot of different options for the applications, but most importantly, enable Google Play and verify Google Play option is in the applications settings. Then you have your account management, where you can get your system account settings, Onyx account, and you can add your Evernote, Dropbox, OneNote accounts so that everything is synced all the time, should you choose to do that. Then you have firmware update, feedback option, where you send out your feedback, and some users actually report that it's a very good thing that once you add, this is basically you can just send feedback or a support question and you get very nice kind of feedback there. And in more settings you have just a couple of more things, such as setting the system display, font size, the gesture manager, server selection, and also one thing that I really like is that function tabs can display only icons. So if you become comfortable with this and you know what which icon says, you can now just disable it and it's a much cleaner overview. This is how I like to use it, but for the sake of the review, so that people are comfortable and that they can actually see what's what, I'll just leave it on. This is also in the more settings. This is where you set your password settings, screen lock, and fingerprint manager as well. Alright, so one of the big new things that came out with the version 3 and update to Android 10 is the split screen mode. And currently this is going to be supported only in the devices that are using the V3 of the firmware. Currently that's Max Lumi and Note Air, but there is a word that it's going to come to Max 3, Note 2, Nova 2, and I think that's pretty much it. We'll see. However, nothing has been confirmed. It's just what I've heard. Now, the split screen works like this. If you are in outside of any application, if you're just in the main menu, regardless of which of these modes, and if you go to split screen, you will get like, okay, position exchange or enter split screen mode, it will tell you app does not support split screen mode. So you first have to be in an application that supports a split screen mode, and that is going to be your main application. So let's say that I go into my reader. So in Neo Reader, now I'm in, and you can just see how snappy the device is. It's super, super fast. So now I can go into split screen and I can say enter split screen. It's automatically going to flip into horizontal or landscape mode, and my main app or the primary app is now on the left hand side, and it functions just as it normally would. So I can still slide down. This is system-wide notifications kind of thing, but I can operate the app completely independently from the right side of the screen. Now in the right side of the screen, I can choose between my notebook, where I can choose another notepad, which is kind of separate thing, or the square or the cube thing is basically your apps, and then you can see all of your apps that have been installed, and these are going to be all the apps that support the split screen mode. So for example, I can just go and choose and go into CPU Z, and you can see that it now works perfectly fine, and I can see exactly dynamically how the frequency of the CPU is changing, or maybe I can investigate the thermals of the device, how it actually functions while it's maybe charging or things like that. This is just one of the use case scenarios, but obviously there's a huge amount of use case scenarios that you can use. What can you do if I want them the other way around? I can just swipe down, split screen, and I can do position exchange. And now the primary one is on the right side and the secondary app is on the left side. So if I go back, I can swap them again. And now if I tap, first I want to tap on the screen here of the secondary app, and if I press the back button, it will go out of the app and it will go back into the option here to actually maybe choose something else, for example, if I wanted to. Or maybe I don't want that, so I can just go back and maybe I can choose to go to Google Play Store and install something else, etc., etc. But if I am in the main one, in the primary one, and I press back, it's going to exit the split screen mode completely. So I think it's a very, very complete type of experience and super, super intuitive and incredibly useful. So this really, really transforms the tool into a powerhouse of a tool, and the CPU and the RAM and the storage, everything is there, and it's able to actually support it, and it's super, super snappy. So it's a fantastic functionality, and it's a really, really powerful one. Screencast will be covered, but in a separate video when I'm talking about how to use the device as an external monitor hooked up by a wire, wirelessly, and of course screencasting. So don't worry, it will be covered, but in a separate part of the review. Now, one more thing that's, I think, very important to cover with the Max Lumi is Bluetooth. So you can hook up wirelessly peripherals such as headphones, speakers, but more importantly, you can hook up wirelessly a keyboard. So I have here my wireless Bluetooth keyboard. I'm just gonna power it up, and I've already paired it, but yeah, basically you just get into the pair mode and you turn on Bluetooth, and it wait for until it turns on. Once it turns on, well, it automatically detected it and hooked up already the keyboard because it's already been paired. But if you want to pair for the first time, you simply press and hold, and then you get into the Bluetooth menu where you can connect to the devices and have additional settings for each of the devices themselves. It works extremely good, so it works normally as you would expect it to, and I really love the ability to actually navigate. You can navigate through your options in Max Lumi. So I can go into here, maybe let's go up here and open up the document, and let's go maybe Geology of Mars. Now I'm in the document and I can just basically go through everything as I would just via the keyboard. And there's also some really useful shortcuts, but that's going to be as a bonus video at the end part. I'm going to show the bonus shortcuts, how you can actually use all of this. But I have to say that it's very, very sweet to be able to, you know, kind of open out notifications, go home, back, and all that kind of stuff just via the keyboard alone. Super powerful feature to have on a powerful device like this. Okay, now let's cover two things. I want to cover the expandability, how this works, and you remember that this is the thing that you actually get in the package, which is a USB-C to micro SD card slot. So you can just plug it down here into the USB-C slot. Using USB OTG storage, Type-C earphone will drain battery quickly. And basically what we're doing now is we're taking a use of the feature that Max Lumi supports USB-C OTG functionality. So I have here a 200 gigabyte micro SD card. The SD card is glowing red, so it has power. So I'm just gonna slot the card in. So I just flipped it around so that I can see things a little bit better. And now once it's actually slotted in, you go to the notifications area and you will see here issue with mass USB drive. Tap to fix. Needs to be formatted to store apps, files, and media. Now, I am not going to erase this one because this is something that I'm using on my camera actually. So, and I need the data that's there, but obviously it works. So I can, if I choose to, I can have 200 gigabytes expanded like this. Another thing that we can use is also a USB-C hub, and this one has USB 3 or normal USBs, USB-C, HDMI, and an SD card slot, micro SD card, and LAN. So this one I tried and it worked as far as, for example, hooking up a keyboard and USB drive and storage stuff. It worked on Nova 2 and Max 3. It worked perfectly fine. I haven't tested it on Max Lumi yet, so let's test it out and see what's what. Okay, so it glows, so it definitely is getting power. But if there we go, USB device connected, and now I want to see, yeah, so now I need to kind of see what type of USB is going to be controlled by this device. So I'm switching that this device is controlling, nope. So USB is controlled by the connected device? Charge connected device, no. This is very strange because it's acting like I am charging the USB hub. Yeah, it's recognizing it as a charger, but then that's not gonna work, so... Oh, there we go. It does actually. All right. Fine. So it has recognized it, and once I hooked up the USB stick into it, it appears here as USB storage. And now I can just go here and look through stuff. So that definitely works, and you have the ability to eject it, so to safely eject it. All right, USB 32 gigabytes, safely eject it. Let's try the micro SD card slot, the same SD card. Hopefully I don't have to format it here. Okay, we got that in. Let's see if it's recognizing it. Nope, the SD card doesn't seem to be recognized. Let me check on PC if the card works. All right, so the card definitely works, but on this guy at least, not really talking about it. He's not really thinking that, nope, that's not something that I want. Okay, well, as USB OTG goes, it's always going to be sketchy. However, on Max Lumi currently, things that worked on Max or with the same one, they are working a little bit less. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that's going to be upgraded in further firmware upgrade. However, that's pretty much what there is. I've tried also the HDMI, didn't work, and I tried LAN, and that didn't work either. So for me, with this one, with the USB-C adapter that I have here, only the USB stick worked. But this guy works fine, so I guess that's that. This concludes the general overview part of the in-depth review. Click on the part 2 to check out the writing experience on Max Lumi.